Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, Christine.
Mean.
Kelly, you're always an early one. I love that.
I never know how it's going to all work out.
Gosh.
Every time I do these meetings, I think, oh, I got it down. It's a memory now. It's muscle memory. And then every time I have to do it 5 different ways to get it to work. So I don't know.
Before, when I left Windermere for 6 or 8 months, whatever it was, I was with Graphical Data.
Right.
And
I
so
remember.
part of my job, so I was vice president of operations, but it turned out where they needed the most help was with sales. So I would get in my car and go places to put on presentations for websites. And so I had to have this whole kit with me, extra extension cords and not masking tape, but what's that heavy duty duct tape to tape down the stuff. And I had to have backups and batteries and all this stuff. And I would get to sites, sometimes an hour and a half early just to make sure everything worked.
Yep.
Because you never know. It worked yesterday. Why doesn't it work today? What the heck's going on?
Exactly.
So it can be very.
Terry West, our DJ for our dances, he does that. He has a truck full of stuff, and he shows up an hour early, gets it all set up. Then he goes in the restroom and changes his clothes for his showtime.
Mm-hmm.
But every so often when we have a different DJ for the night, they inevitably show up literally a minute before the dance is supposed to start, and it takes 30 minutes. And then usually Lee Barton has to run home or run to buy some cord that's missing, and then half our dance is gone.
Right.
So aggravating.
Isn't it ridiculous?
Got to be prepared.
Exactly. Be prepared.
And be early, especially when it comes to technology.
Yeah, because man, and sometimes you discover it doesn't work. Like it worked a minute ago, now it doesn't work, and you're 2 minutes before your presentation. So then by the time your presentation starts, you're already like this, right?
Exactly. And now you can't clear your head.
No, you got to settle your brain down. Okay, get back into your routine of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I just was on my desk and I clicked on Bear Printing, and none of that's working now. I don't know why. I did it like 10 times.
Wow.
Not found.
Morning, David.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Excellent. How are you doing?
I'm good. Just a little sleepy still.
Does anybody feel like the birds are noisier this year? Because they start chirping about 6 a.m. and I can hear them through my walls, my windows, and it's really hard to sleep in the morning.
I haven't noticed.
So, David, do you have your 8 Phases notebook with you?
I don't.
Okay. Kelly, do you have yours with you?
No, I don't know that I've ever gotten one. No.
You got one when you first started for sure.
Did I?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Big 3-ring notebook that had 8 phases of business development in it.
My God, I'm inundated with paper over here. So that would have been a long time ago though, right?
Oh, yeah. It would have been a long time ago. Let's see. Let's get rid of that part of the email. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait another minute or two. I'm going to start building a...
Is it in a 3-ring binder?
It's in a 3-ring. No.
Okay.
No.
Hold on a minute here. It doesn't say action track on the front page of it?
Yeah.
Oh, it does. Okay. I
Yeah.
got that then.
Okay, good. Although it may have changed because you were in a while and then hang on, I just need to send out an email real quick.
Yeah, I've got the one that says Randy's name on it. I don't know where mine is. Huh. Oh, here's mine. I got it.
Okay, so far I've got, and I'll shoot one to Kelly. shoot one to David. I'll send one to Randy. Send one to Chris Jennings. I'll send one to Liz. Who else? Shannon. Wow, support staff is on here. Woohoo! Thank you for support staff from. I hope we'll have some some additional brokers. Otherwise, it'll be just one-on-one with Randy, David, and I, huh?
There you go.
Or David and Kelly. Let me see. What am I doing? Oh, I know.
Well, I feel left out. I don't have a headshot like everybody else.
Oh, there you go. Well, you've got your professional headshot that you had done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we can put that on there. So let's see. I'm going to give you.
You just have to go into settings, David, and upload it is all. Zoom
I don't have it on my computer, though.
Oh, okay.
Ryan did it for me.
Hmm. You can have him email it to you.
Yeah, I can email you your picture. I'll
That's
do it right
okay.
now.
I'm not afraid to show my face early in the morning like you guys are.
Oh, I'm wrapped in a blanket, so
Okay, so do you guys know how to work with zip files?
Yes.
Okay, good. Kelly, really?
Well, you just click on them and they open.
Okay, good.
Did you send something?
No, I will be here in a second. I'm just waiting
Oh,
to see
okay.
if anybody else joins us. What time is it? 9:17. So we'll give it
Well,
3
you-
more minutes and then I'll get started.
You do have to extract the files. You just can't open it. It won't work that way. You have to extract the files, just FYI.
Mine always comes with a file underneath it, and then I click on the file part. The folder,
Okay.
folder.
Because, yeah, normally you have to click on the folder and then you have to extract the files to put them somewhere.
Oh, I've never done that.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe yours is different.
Yeah, I'm an Apple.
Okay. Well, then you're lucky.
Yeah, I know, baby.
On the
Max
other ones, we
smarter.
have to extract. So
Yeah.
Max
That's
or
why Frank and I
smarter?
are Apple people.
Macs are smarter. Oh, Lordy.
Oh, I hear a kitty cat.
Oh, can you hear her? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
This is Patsy.
Patsy.
Patsy Margaret June.
Oh, wow. A Southern cat. So I
Oh,
always
yeah.
found
She was born in Dallas.
Southern people always have bunches of names. Bobby Joe Ray Smith. I grew up in Florida, and my boss's name was Jimmy Powell.
Stephen Powell.
Jimmy, yeah. I always feel weird calling people IE names.
You have no issues with Kelly.
Well, I know, but that's
Everybody-
yeah. Oh, there's Cindy Lint.
Everybody in my family is a E sound at the end.
Yeah. So I'll include Cindy as well. Cindy Lint.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi, everybody.
That's a pretty picture, Cindy.
Thank you. I finally figured out I have to actually log on to Zoom first
Yes.
and then enter the meeting ID number. Before I was just hitting that link that Frank was in Frank's email, and then it doesn't pull up my picture.
Oh,
You
Huh.
guys have to enter an ID number?
yeah.
Well, there's two ways. No, you don't have to. That's
Oh,
the
okay, I
thing.
don't have to.
No, you can just do the blue, the link on Frank's
Yeah.
email, and it gets you there. I'm not photo ready this morning, personally, for camera work, so I thought, at least you can see my picture.
See, what other new brokers do we have in the office? We've got Daniel.
Donna,
Donna said she couldn't be here today. I got, who else should be on there?
Nick,
Oh, yeah, Nick Baird. Yeah, I'll send him a note.
Daniel,
KJ,
Hello.
hi. I like your Facebook post, KJ.
Oh, well, thank you.
Keep me entertained.
It's my mission.
Okay, so I sent out a note to Daniel and Nick. What time is it? Okay, I got time 20, so we're just, oh, there's Eric. Hey, good morning, Eric. I'm gonna add Eric to the list then. Eric.
Good morning. Jeanette's off taking the dogs to the vet.
Okay, Jay, I'm gonna include you. Okay, so what I'm getting ready to do, and make sure I got everybody for now. Okay, good. I'm sending everybody a zip file, and what it is, it's chapter 1 of the 8 phases of business development, which is what we're gonna be covering today. So the goal is to each week cover the next chapter. And the 8 phases part doesn't officially start today. It'll start to next week, because today I'm talking to you as a CEO. You are a CEO of your own company. And so that's the direction that we're taking for today's meeting. I think often what happens is new brokers come into the business and they think they're just riding along and they're expecting somebody to tell them what to do and where to go. And in fact, you need to be the driver of your own company. You're in charge. You're the CEO of your own company. So that's one of the huge benefits about being in real estate, is that you don't have a boss. You are your own boss. But sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. So you need to look within yourself to figure out what kind of personality you have and whether you're self-driven or not. So I'm going to jump in and start screen sharing. Let's see.
Oh my, there's a lot of things in this little zip file.
Yep.
Oh gosh, okay.
It goes on forever.
Does everybody have it open?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so everybody's got it open, perfect. And I am screen sharing, so let me get over here and I'm gonna go. So here's what am I looking at? There it is. Here's what this next week looks like. And so on yours, is that gallery view? Yeah, so if you go up and click on gallery view, you'll be able to see, as opposed to speaker view, you'll have a bigger picture. But we're gonna just start at the top and kind of work our way through each of these pages. So we're gonna be here for a little while working through the different parts of what it takes for you to run your company. What I'm gonna be teaching from are let me find my notes again. Let's see, my teaching notes. Okay, got it. So there are my objectives. Perfect. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and get started with page 1. So the whole objectives of this class is to help you get your first transactions as quickly as possible. For brand new brokers just starting out of the gate, you should get your first transaction in the first 60 or 90 days, and that would be either working with a buyer or getting a listing under contract. Now, obviously today it's a little challenged, it's a little muffled, but still everything you could do before you can do now. It's just a little bit more, it's just a little different. One of the goals of this whole 12-week program is to help you understand the flow of a transaction. And there's nothing better to help you understand how a transaction flows than to get into one. It's amazing how training works. So this type of training is linear, but I can't pretend to say, if you came into me as a broker and said, gosh, I've got a listing, Frank, I'm not going to tell you no, you can't take a listing today. That's not until week 13. You know, you just can't work that way. So if you do come up with something that's not in order, it's okay. That's called the chaos of real estate. Just let myself or your mentor know, and we'll be able to jump in and help you with it. So, so the best way to get to figure out how to do this stuff is to get into transaction, and then it's amazing what you'll learn when you have to, because that's the next step in your transaction. This is also understanding the importance of building a continuous flow of leads. So one of the biggest challenges that brokers have is that they do a transaction, they focus on that transaction, they babysit it through 6 or 8 weeks of closing, and then it closes and they got nothing. And the reason for that is because they stayed so focused on the closing and not on lead generation. In this business, lead generation should always be your primary objective. Yes, I know you've got transactions in the pipeline and pending, and those need babysitting. Got it. I know you're going to have inspections done. I know you're going to have septic systems and septic health letters. I got it. That all needs to be done. That will take care of itself if you at first time block and focus on lead generation. Lead generation is your primary concern. Everything else will take care of itself. So the next objective of this is to lay a foundation for your business. So what I mean by that is you can come in and be like a broker on fire and just chasing whatever the next thing is, or you can begin to build fundamental foundations upon which you can build a strong business. So what I mean by that are disciplines and routines. Do you check the hot sheet every day? Do you, what is your time blocking? What is your timekeeping? How do you set appointments? How do you lead generate? Being systematic is part of building your basic foundation. You also, by the time you're done, should be able to earn the certificate of your certified seller representative, the certified buyer representative, as well as the certified open house specialist. And here again, with caveats, the open house one will be a little bit tougher, but the certified seller specialist and the buyer representation, you can totally do right now, because there's 2 steps to all of those. You can go through the process and earn the designation tentatively, which means you've done everything, but then you just need the 5 transactions, or you need the 5 listings. And then once you get the 5th listing, then let me know, and then you'll be able to fly the flag, carry the designation. But you can do everything leading up to actually having the 5th transaction. For instance, to be the seller specialist, you need to put on a couple of buyer or seller listing presentations. You can do that with your mentor via Skype or via Zoom, and then you can put one on with me. So use your mentor and myself to do that kind of stuff. Put on your listing presentation. Now's the time to get your foundation, especially with COVID going on. There's no better time to work on your foundational items. And then, of course, learn and use the John L. Scott tools is the last of the objectives for this 12-week program. And it's called 8 Phases of Business Development because, as you'll see next week, as I promised, we'll actually show you the 8 phases that I've broken our business into. But this week, we're staying focused mainly on being president. And so instead of you guys looking at a blank screen, I thought I'd just bring over my instructor notes so you can see them with me. So one of the things that I want you to do is keep a journal. Now, I'm not asking you to do something that I don't do. I keep mine right here. And I don't necessarily mean you wake up every morning and say, today is October 5th, 2020, dear diary. I'm not necessarily looking for something like that. What I am looking for is someplace in which you physically write down everything you do every day, such that you never take a phone call without your journal in front of you. You never listen to your voicemails without your journal in front of you. You never review your emails without your journal in front of you. Because as questions come up or thoughts come up, you can easily write them down in your journal, and it can become a checklist. One of the things that I've come in, my habit is whenever I write down an action item, I put a little box alongside of it, and then I move on to the next item, whatever I have to write down. And if it's an action item, I put a box alongside of it. That way, every day or so, I go back in my journal and I go back through the pages and I look for boxes with no checks in them. If there's a check in the box, then I know I've completed that item. And often what I'll do is every Friday I prepare for the next week. So the way my system goes is every evening I prepare for the next day. Every Friday I prepare for the next week. So what I'll typically do is on let's say a Tuesday evening when I'm preparing for Wednesday, I'll go back over the Tuesday and I'll look for any boxes that are unchecked. I'll either complete them real quick if I can or carry them over to the next day. The same thing on Friday. When I'm preparing for the next week, I'll go through all the pages from the last week, look for boxes that aren't checked, and then I'll carry those forward, and it almost becomes a to-do list. Now, for those of you that are more electronically oriented, you can certainly do it that way as well. I've found, for me personally, I like to have the paper, and I like to have the paper checklist. The electronic to-do list that I use is called Todoist, Todoist. I find it to be a great program. In fact, I'll pull it up right here. And I do use it quite a bit, but it allows me to be able to put things in like reoccurring items. So for instance, tomorrow, this is actually tomorrow's routine right here, is my week ahead video. You know, I put that out each week, set up my next week's calendar, turn in my recruiting numbers, because every week I'm asked about how I'm doing with recruiting, prepare my weekly business meeting. I've got approved time cards for our employees, prepare I have that on there twice. And so in any case, I like Todoist because it allows me to categorize things, although I find I don't actually use categories very much. You guys might if you use this program. But Todoist usually shows up on whenever they do reviews of different to-do type lists. Todoist always shows up on the top 10 list. So I found it to be very helpful. Having said that, I'm right now playing with a program that came highly recommended by Jorge and Kelsey. And they use a program called HubSpot. So I'm starting to play around with that as well, just because I'm always looking for new stuff. And I'm also trying to keep up with you guys, to be blunt. You guys are always coming up with new stuff. I need to keep up with you so that I can talk intelligently about it. So keeping a journal is critical. One of the challenges in our business is because we don't do business in an office at a desk all the time, the habit there is, oh, if I put a sticky note up on my screen, I'm going to find it. Well, now the screen doesn't even stay in the same place all the time. We're always moving with our notebooks. You should have a notebook computer because we're a mobile type company or a mobile type operation. So that's why you need the notebook. So the notebook is with you all the time. And so it's just, plus you and I, our interactions, obviously, if you need help right now as a new broker, your mentor is always there for you. Your staff is always there for you. I'm always there for you for those instant, oh my gosh, I'm meeting with a client in 5 minutes. I don't know what to do. Or I've got a question about something. Call us. However, it's just a question that you want to ask next time you and I get together, put an F alongside of it. And then that way you can go back through your list. I know Kelly's really good at this. Whenever she and I meet for coaching, she'll go back through her notebook and look for anything with Frank alongside of it, because she saves up her questions. And then when we get together, she just goes over all the questions. So it's a good use of our time, and it works out real well. So keeping a journal is critical. Answer questions from the past week. So each lesson, this is what each lesson is going to have. So we're going to go through your journal, ask any questions. I'm going to answer any questions that you might have from our previous week's session. We're going to review homework. So each week there's going to be some homework for you to do. We'll cover a lead generation topic. So there are 13 ways to generate leads in this business. So each week I'll cover 1 or 2 lead generation topics. We're going to go through the phases we're covering. So there are 8 phases in business development. So by the time we're done, we will have covered each of those phases. So each week is sort of broken down into a couple different sections. One section is lead generation, and one section is where we are in the phase of business development. Homework. So each week you're going to have homework. What the homework challenges you to do is earn your designations, get you in front of people. Every week you should be trying to do 20 face-to-face transactions. Or by the time you're done, you'll have 20 face-to-face conversations, 180 conversations, 110 people in your UCR database, 85 handwritten notes, 12 property tracker accounts at least, 35 neighborhood insight accounts, and you'll send out 24 John F. Scott app invites is what you'll have accomplished over these weeks. And it's funny, each time I read through this, to me, it sounds kind of weenie, because if I'm jazzed about my business, if my goal is to grow my business as quickly as possible, the fastest way you can do that is to double up on this face-to-face. Get face to face with as many people as you can. And I get we're in a challenging time. So what that means right now is get Zoom to Zoom with people, right? Send out an invite and say, gosh, could we get together? Send them an invite and say, could we get together? I just wanted to touch base, see how you're doing. To me, that counts as a face-to-face in today's market. It doesn't need to be, hey, it's about me. What can you do to help me? Can you list your house with me? Do you want to buy a house with me? It's not about that. Big X. It's not about that. You can Zoom in with people and just say, hey, how are you doing? What's your new routine? You know, are you furloughed or have you been laid off? Or, you know, get into the conversation with them. And I don't even care if no real estate comes up during that conversation. The point is you had a conversation with them. What you're going to find is that you can't sell real estate if you never have a conversation with a person. Any real estate transaction started at some point in the recent past with just a conversation. And that conversation evolved maybe over just a couple of days, or maybe over a couple of months, or maybe even over a year or two. Consistent conversations done lead to finally they're in a point in life in which they need help. So these 180 conversations, especially 180 conversations, that sounds like a lot, but really over 13 weeks, I mean, that's just about 2 a day, 3 a day. Again, if I'm hungry, and I can remember not too long ago, I know it's been 30 years already, believe it or not, but I can remember coming into the office every day and just hammering the phones, door knocking like crazy, holding every open house I could. And even then, there was a broker in the business who still's in the business by the name of Mike Bay. His background was encyclopedia sales. And so I looked over one day at his desk and he had a 3x5 card alongside of it. And he had the number 350 written on it. And I said, well, that's an interesting card or number, Mike. What does that mean? He says, that's how many people I've talked to so far this week. It's like, holy crap, dude. But if you compared his first year to my first year, he actually did much better his first year than I did my first year, because he was a total animal about talking with people. Because again, with any new business, job number one is to grow your business as quickly as you can. You can't do that.
Can I add something in?
Yes, you can.
When you're making your phone calls, what I'm zeroing in on is older people, especially. You know, part of my conversation with them is, you know, have you ever done a Zoom meeting? Would you like me to teach you how to do it so you can talk to your family? You know, have you used Instacart so that you can get groceries delivered? Can I help you learn how to do that? That sort of thing they've really been appreciating that, because maybe they've never had a clue. You know, they don't even know that exists out there. And so, especially if they're elderly, I don't want them going to the grocery store. So if I bring up, you know, can I help you with something like that? They really like that.
Good point. Okay.
So I've got resources I can share with them, even though it's not real estate involved.
Perfect. And see, that's probably the biggest. Brokers sometimes get caught in the only time they're going to need me is if they need to buy or sell a home, and I just sold them a home, so they're not going to need me for 8 years. When in fact, we're a great resource for other services, other resources. We're just, you know, that's our thing. So right now, especially with a lot of the links that John L. Scott has given us, we've got a lot of stuff to talk with them about. So good point, Kelly. Good. So I see that Donna joined us. Good morning, Donna, and Mary Lee joined us. Here in a couple minutes, I'll send you out. I'm going to show them on the screen. Well, actually, I'll do it now. So does my screen look blurry to you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to find out why that is. So I'm going to do Donna and then Mary Lee. What I'm sending out is a zip file of the file or the stuff that we're going to be covering today. So that way you can see it more clearly.
Hey, Frank, do you want to describe maybe the items in the zip file? Is there an arrangement that we need to look at? One first, the second one? How are you arranging that?
So if you look at the numbers,
Uh-huh.
do you see the numbers alongside each file?
Yes.
That's how they're numbered.
Okay. So like the missing numbers, like 9, and you just ignore that because you
just ignore that, because
okay.
I put the system together so that way support staff would know what order to put them in the notebooks when they create notebooks. And then it gives me plenty of room to add additional material as I continue to work on the program.
Okay.
Okay, so in any case, quick start guides. Let me send the quick start guide out to everybody because I don't think that was included in week 1. Oh no, that is in week 1. So item number 1.5, the quick start guide. Let's open that for just a moment. So the quick start guide is designed for the first 2 weeks in real estate. And again, coming back to, I try to only hire people that are hungry. I try to only hire people that are driven business people. But I guess I get drive means different things to different people. I'm still amazed though, after I talked with somebody who's been in the business quite a while and they don't have some of the basics. In fact, don't take this personally, because there are brokers that have been in the business 10, 12, 15 years that if I went to them and said, show me your database, they don't have one, right? There are many brokers right now that fly by the seat of their pants. You look at them and say, wow, those brokers are very successful, but they're running on a shoestring. They're just going from transaction to transaction to transaction, but here's their saving grace. And this is why I always come back to job 1 in real estate is lead generation. The reason why some of those brokers can be so successful is because they have a natural way of interacting with the people around them and their community that allows them to draw business to them, and then the rest kind of takes care of itself. Now, sometimes those brokers are scattered. Sometimes those brokers don't return calls in a timely manner. Sometimes those brokers aren't real good at the paperwork. But I'm here to tell you, I can teach paperwork, or I can help you hire an assistant. The hardest thing to get brokers or any salespeople to do is get out there and make contacts and do sales. So 90% of what we talk about, even though it's focused at real estate, has to do with if you're a Nike salesperson, if you're a Boeing salesperson selling airplanes, if you're selling milk to grocery stores. Sales is sales, and it all comes down to finding people who have a need and finding a way to fill that need. In our case, we're not selling milk and we're not selling Boeing airplanes. What we're really good at is helping people solve problems of housing. And that is, I need to buy a home, I need to sell a home, or I'm thinking about doing something to my home. How does that affect value? Those are all resources that we traffic in. So I'm just going to run through Quick Start real quick because a lot of it is basic. If you haven't been to Activator, you should sign up for Activator, especially now, because Activator is being done all online. As you've heard me talk about, our goal is to get Activator here in Kitsap County. I've got the instructors lined up. We're still working on the venue, but nonetheless, it's all been on hold during this COVID times. So if indeed I don't even know if your support staff is going to be able to come back to the office even after this thing lifts May 5th, right, or May 4th. So once we get that under control, we're going to nail down Activator in Kitsap County. However, between now and then, Jeff is teaching it online. So if you've not been to Activator, now is the time to sign up for it. And then even if you've been to Activator in the past, feel free to. Donna and Mary Lee, did you get your email zip file?
Yes, Frank, I did, but I can't open it.
So
I don't know why.
Did you double click on it?
Let me, okay, so.
If you double click on it, it should extract. So Activator, getting signed up for Activator is critical. Getting your photo taken, and I don't mean a cell phone photo, that can hold for a moment, or if you give us an older photo, we can make that work. So that way there's a placeholder. But you should really try to get out there and get a professional photo done of yourself. And if you're actually having a photographer do it, or if you haven't updated your photo in a while, when you have your photo taken, as long as you've got it all there, take a change of clothes. If you're a gal, so have one with just a blouse on and your hair done and all that stuff, so you look nice but casual business. And then have a jacket or something, so that way you dress up. So you have an A-type picture and a B or B+ type picture. All professional, of course, but as long as you got the photographer lined up and you've got the time blocked out, you have a change of clothes or change up your outfit so you can have an A+, which is front and center. The A+ picture goes on your website, goes on your business cards. It's the first image that a consumer sees of you. That should be an A+ image. And then if, let's say, you're putting together a personal brochure or for secondary pages within your website, then you have a B or B+, which is still professional, but maybe a tad relaxed. So get your picture taken. Get your business cards on order.
Frank,
Yes.
it says Windows cannot complete the extraction. Destination file cannot be created. So I will save that and go over it with my husband this evening.
Okay, sounds good. So get your business cards on order, and so Heather's ready, willing, and able, or any of your support staff is ready, willing, and able to help you with your business cards. We've got specific business cards for John L. Scott. Let me give my quick soapbox on business cards. I think that your business cards and your signs should look the same as everybody else in John L. Scott. And the logic is that John L. Scott spends millions of dollars every year in different ways at different levels to build a brand and brand integrity. That brand integrity means if I see the John L. Scott Swish or the John L. Scott business cards, I know that the brokers are a cut above the average. I know they're educated. I know they engage in transaction integrity. I know that they're solid people. It's sort of like when you go to McDonald's, right? I love McDonald's as an example because they are experts at mediocrity. But you know, when you go to a Golden Arches or a McDonald's that looks like a McDonald's, you know what you're going to get. And I get it's average, but hey, it's average in every restaurant. It's consistent. But if I went to a McDonald's that had purple arches instead of golden arches, well, it sort of looks like McDonald's, but doesn't really. You're going to see some brokers out there with non-John L. Scott standard business cards. And I've probably had this exact same discussion with them because I don't want to be the sign or logo police right now. That's not my role. But the day may come where I'm going to come back and ask them to get rid of those cards or those signs and make the signs look more like John L. Scott and more business and the business cards more like John L. Scott. Because when you go on house tour, when we get back to that, you want a seller to look at the table and see a sea of consistent John L. Scott cards. That sends out a message. You don't want, oh, I think it's John L. Scott, but it looks different than John L. Scott. No, you cannot compete with the branding that goes into a company like John L. Scott. I know some of our brokers have egos and we want to have our own image and our own brand. Get over that part of it. There are other places in your marketing to put in your own personal flair, like a trifold brochure. Not enough brokers use trifold brochures, in my opinion. On other pages in your website, on your Facebook, there are plenty of places for you to be able to get in there and do personal type stuff. So let's see, Randy Brown said, I sent you scanned week 1 and 2 for people who can't open the zip file. Oh, okay, great. Well, thank you, Randy. Awesome. So you guys got an email from Randy that she scanned them in for you. Do you have a scanner, Randy? Oh, she must be also scanning.
Nope, I'm sorry, I was on mute. No, I don't have a scanner. Heather sent it to me to teach it to my office. So I actually only sent them to you, Frank, because I'm not sure who can open the zip file.
Okay, got it. Well, and so I sent them out as a zip file only because it's so big, and I didn't want to take the time to send out individual files to 28 people. So, well, not 28, but what is there? 14. So if you're stuck, I can send you individual files later on or smaller, because as you know, if you send an email with a bunch of stuff, it's going to choke. So that's why it zipped it. Okay, so enough about business cards and logos. So this is quick start guide. Assemble all of your contacts. This is where, even as an experienced broker, it's a good exercise to go through and look. So I've got 100 people in my database. Great. Is the information complete? Do I have names, addresses, phone numbers? Do I have birthdays? Do I have the names of the kids? Fill all that stuff out. Enter them all into my desk. Staff is ready, willing, and able to help you. Three of our missions, I mentioned at the Monday business meeting, our 3 missions are to, 1, help you increase and improve the number and quality of contacts you have in your database. 2 is to subscribe as many people in your database as possible for housing updates. And 3, help and encourage you to use buy-side. Those are our 3 objectives during these COVID times. So turn to your support staff for help. Compose an introduction letter. So I've got some examples attached. Phone each recipient of the letter. So you're going to send out a letter and option to send out a letter introducing yourself as a new broker, then phone each recipient. You should be in the habit of every time you send something out, you should follow up with a phone call. Sign each person up for Property Tracker and Market Insights. We're going to learn more about that later. Send a handwritten note to each after your call. handwritten notes are one tool that I've been preaching for 30 years, and it's still even more important today than it was 30 years ago. And that's because rarely do people send out handwritten notes anymore. Rarely do people get a handwritten note in their mailbox. It has a heightened sense of personalization. So handwritten notes. If your handwriting isn't that great, let me know. I use a program called Send Out Cards, and it allows me to send out the brownies that I sometimes send out or the cards. So it's a great secondary way to do it. Learn basic interview questions. Those are assemble your team and meet with them one-on-one. You should be meeting with a lender. So there are some great lenders in the business. I would ask you to include Tracy as one of your lenders. When I was a practicing broker, I had 2 lenders. My 2 lenders were, and I just want to make sure I'm still screen sharing. Oh no, I'm over here, aren't I? Okay, there we go. So I always had 2 lenders. One lender was an A-type personality. He would blow the walls off many more kinesthetic type of my clients because he was fast-paced, he was happening, he was going, go, go, go. And then the other one was more kinesthetic, more laid back, more feelings, more, because there's people process material or information visually, audibly, or through kinesthetics. Whole different workshop. But so I always had 2 lenders, one that was more A-type personality and one that was more visual, and then one that was more kinesthetic, more touchy-feely. Because that way I could I could send my client to what's going to help them. And then escrow officers, go do a tour. When we can get back to normal, go do a plant tour, find out what goes through. In Kitsap County, we're lucky because we've got many good quality companies that do both escrow and title under one roof. In some counties, you go one place for escrow and a different place for title. Go find out what that looks like at a Pacific Northwest Title or a Transamerica or lawyers or whatever, or attorneys, I mean. Go find out what that looks like. Pick a good title company. That will pay dividends. I can honestly say that I would have not been successful in getting my broker's license if it wasn't for my my escrow officer, my escrow officer and her team always got chocolates and flowers because I knew that she would be there in the evening if I had a late night signing. But she also knew she could call me and I'd help her with anything as well. So take care, pick a good escrow officer and then send your business through that. I don't know what that means. Oh, schedule and sit your first open house. You should be doing that. Walk through the property with the listing broker and then take all your new marketing materials for display. So you want to get open houses going. Obviously, we all do once this happens, but certainly once we're doing open houses again, I'll jump in and help you with the new brokers. So here are the basic interview questions, and you're going to find that these are true no matter where you meet a client. It could be in the line at the theater. It could be in an open house. It could be on the phone. I know you don't want to turn on the spotlight and interrogate them. That's not the point. But during a normal back and forth conversation, you do want to get through some of this. What are you looking for in a home now? What areas have you looked? How long have you been looking? Have you chosen a broker to help you with your purchase? Why do you think you have not found a home yet? When do you want to be all moved into your new home? What happens if you don't meet that timeline? So these are all questions that just kind of come along and they all go to motivation. Mary Lee, you look so funny because it looked like you just hiked off that mountain.
Yeah, I did.
So in any case, these are great questions. These are part of your packet. So this is something print out and keep with you. Example of the intro letter. So if you've not done this yet, go out and send out a letter. There's no ego in this letter. So use what you want, change what you want. So just an intro letter. So this would go out maybe on a Friday. And so let's say you've got 50 of them to send out. Don't send them all out at once. Send 10 out every Friday. And then Thursday and Friday, make 10 phone calls. Remember, I said, don't mail anything that you're not ready to follow up with a phone call. You'll find it has so much more impact. So if you sent out an intro letter like this, you included a couple of business cards, you sent 10 out every Monday. On Thursday and Friday, maybe make 5 calls on Thursday, 5 calls on Friday, because you know they received it by then. Now you've got something to follow up, and they're warmer calls. They're warm calls anyway, because these are people that you know. Here's examples of handwritten notes. So just quick system to have in place. Again, going back to when I was a practicing broker, I always carried with me in a little envelope, note cards and envelopes, stamps, large tip pen, and business cards. And I can remember when my daughter was little and I was waiting for her at dance class, I'd be sitting out in the waiting room writing handwritten notes to everybody that I'd communicated with over the last day or so to say thank you. Thank you to my escrow officer for doing a great job. Thank you to a potential buyer that I talked about at an open house. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, just touching base with people. So here's a couple of quick paragraphs. They don't have to be long, they don't have to be detailed, and they don't have to be personalized in that these 3 paragraphs you could send to almost anybody. And even though it's already typed out and you carry it with you so you don't have to think about it every time, they're not going to know. They don't compare notes. You know, if you just had a coffee date with somebody, hey, it was fun having coffee today. It's been too long. As we talked about, the real estate market is always changing. Feel free to call me anytime with questions. Let's do it again soon. So just something as simple as that in your signature and maybe a card or 2. Here's an example of property tracker. So if you set up a property tracker account for one of your clients, send them a note and tell them what you just did. Hey, I set up a property tracker, or I set up a market watch for you. Here's what it is. Here's why I did it. If you don't like it, let me know. So that's in the quick start guide. Any questions on that? Okay. So you as president of your own business, have any of you read the E-Myth? Hearing nothing? Okay. So this is an oldie but a goodie. So I've included for you, so you don't have to read the whole book, the Cliff Notes. So take a look at it. And here's what I like about the E-Myth is that this affects everybody who goes into business. I don't care whether you're starting a restaurant, a florist stand, whatever you're starting, especially a real estate company. Everybody goes into business is 3 people in one: the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician, who battle each other. So that's what you guys go through every time. And you'll often hear me say you should at least 1 day a month work on your business, not in your business. That's separating your roles as COO or CEO of your business from the everyday worker bee. So when you take 1 day a month and you work on your business, not in your business, you're putting on your CEO cap and you're saying, okay, how is my business going? Is it going in the direction that I want? Am I meeting my goals? What changes do I need to make to my business plan? You get to do some strategic thinking, like, I really suck at my listing presentations. I've put on 10 listing presentations in the last month and I've only gotten 2 listings. What's wrong with this? So then you work on your listing presentation. Not at that moment. You say, okay, during this next month, I'm going to time block 4 hours in 4 one-hour sections to work on my business plan. And maybe step 1 is to call Frank, or step 1 is to call my mentor and say, I want to put on my listing presentation to you so that you can critique me so I can do better. So always keep in mind, you've got these 3 people. In a nutshell, one of the things I loved about the E-Myth is he takes any business and he draws these boxes. So there's CEO, there's the finance person, maybe vice president of finances. There's the vice president that's in charge of marketing. There's maybe a vice president or of the sales team and a sales manager. All these boxes are required in a business. And there's a job description that goes with each of those. And unfortunately, when you start your business, your name is in every box. So your goal as an entrepreneur is to begin to put other people's name in that box. Now, as a real estate broker, what that means is that if it doesn't take a license, delegate it. So as an example, I always tell new brokers, for your first 3 to 5 transactions, I want you to do them all by yourself. Certainly go to support staff for help. Ask Shannon questions, ask Ryan questions, but don't hire Shannon, for instance, to be your listing coordinator or transaction coordinator right out of the gate, because you need to know how it works before you can help manage and coach somebody to do it for you. So go through the process and learn how this works. But after you've done it a few times, then put Shannon's name in that closing sequence. Start putting and delegating other people's names into those boxes so that you don't have to do everything. You know, let's say if you're going to build a restaurant, okay, great. You need to hire a chef. You need to hire a wait staff. You need to hire maybe a maitre d', depending on the type of restaurant you're doing. You're going to need to, a person who's in charge of ordering supplies. You might hire people to fill those boxes. In real estate, we're sort of a one-person show, and many of us want to stay as a one-person show because we don't want other people to manage. So that's where, with John O. Scott, we try to give you so many tools and give you the listing coordinator, transaction coordinator platform to work with, because that way you can begin to put other people's names in the box. That's why sometimes, especially experienced brokers, I'll come into the resource room and they're sitting in front of a computer designing a flyer. That's not highest and best use of your time. Go to Ryan, go to Shannon. That's the highest and best use of their time. You should be out there, generating new leads. So in any case, here's the Cliff Notes. Enough about that. I highly recommend you read through them. So as a business, these are different things that you need to develop. Because here again, we're talking about you as the CEO of your business. You need to have an operational system. That operational system is what makes the business run on a daily basis. You need to have a business plan. You need to have some type of day timer or daily planning, listing transaction folders, new contracts, how many contracts each week, starting to set goals in that way. You need checklists, notebooks, hot sheets. You need a car, transaction tracking. So different tools looking from a big standpoint, looking down. Your financial systems, how do you handle the cash flow? Cash flow tracking, receipts, tax preparation. Do you use something like Quicken? Do you want to set up a separate business account with checking, savings, and credit? Do you want to be involved in a cash advance or a commission advance program? If you're thinking that you need that, come talk to me first. I try to talk you out of it. Don't dig a hole for yourself, but nonetheless, it's something that would fall into the financial side. And then how about retirement? What are you doing for your retirement? You've probably heard me say a number of times that you should learn to work with 50% of what you earn. If you get a $6,000 commission check, 3,000 of it should go into your home account. The other 3,000 should go into your business account. You should live on 50%. You should put 30% away for taxes, although that's kind of a high number. I'd rather have you have too much than not enough. So 30% for taxes, 30% for long-term savings, and 10% you should push back into your business. With the caveat, I get when you first start, your first couple of transactions, all you're doing is catching up from the months that you haven't had a paycheck. I get that. But as you build your business, get in the habit of just living on 50%, 30% to taxes, 10% into retirement, 10% back into your business. You should have a lead generation system for sale by owners. These are the 13 different ways to do real estate. Did I do all 13? Oh, I did. Okay, good. So these are the 13 ways to generate leads. For sale by owner program, expireds, withdrawals, and canceled, circle prospecting, geo farming, professional farming, social farming, CRM, luxury portfolio. So all these different ways that you can generate leads, you have to have somebody in charge of that. It's going to be you. But again, I want you to think with that hat on. How about your sales systems? How are your listing presentations? How are your buyer presentations? How good are you at putting on a CMA? And then the follow-up systems. So great, I did a transaction that closed yesterday. How do I follow up with that person in such a way that not only do they spin off referrals for me, but they're going to think of me next time that they're going to go to sell their home? So any of the things with the asterisks, of course, are tools that we've got, because we've got some great tools. So any questions on things that you need to develop to do your business? Okay. Let's see what's next in our hit parade. So I don't think I'm going to get into website. I think I just did that a couple of weeks ago as a workshop. But one of the first things you want to do is get in there, get your website personalized. That means uploading your photo. Support staff can help with that. That means uploading a biography. That means making sure the contact information in there is what you want the public to see. Because as I showed you in the training we did a couple of weeks ago, whatever you put into that first section, remember when you go into My Desk, in the upper right-hand corner is a picture of yourself. When you click on it and you go into your account information, that's what shows up for the public. So time blocking, time management. Let's see if I've got a thing for that. So let's jump down here to personal practices. So here's some good personal practices to get in the habit of, because the whole point is to get into practices or routines or set rules with yourself. So focus on the next 12 weeks, not the next 12 months. So there's a great book out there called The 12-Week Year. And I'd highly recommend it. And what it does is it helps you break your year down into 4 chunks. The brain can think over the next 90 days. I know there's a lot of publicity about the Japanese and how efficient they are and how they plan 50 years or generations into the future. Yeah, that sounds great. And if you're the head of a large corporation that's trying to look for how this corporation is going to look in 5 years or 10 years, that's a different topic. You're trying to get your business up and running as quickly as possible, thinking in the terms of next 90 days. Prepare your to-do list each afternoon for the next day. Spend 30 to 45 minutes every day working on lead generation. And here again, as I said earlier, that's almost a little wimpy. I'd like to see between an hour and 2 every day at the beginning. Now, can you back off on that once you get the ball rolling? Of course you can. You'll hear me often say it's easy to go from 3 to 5 transactions. It's hard to go from 0 to 1. 0 to 1, it's like it's stuck in the mud. You can't get the momentum going. You're pushing and pushing and pushing. When you get that first one, don't let the pressure off. Keep going. Once you get the momentum going, once you have 4 or 6 listings, once you have 2 or 3 buyers going, now you've got referrals coming in, you've got open houses you're doing, you've got circle prospecting you're doing, you get all this momentum going, and it's easy to go from 3 to 5. It's really tough to go from 0 to 1. So at the beginning, spend as much time as you can, minimum 30 to 45 minutes every day. Respond to all calls and communications within hours, not days. It's almost come down to minutes. When I first got in the real estate business, I was different because I promised all my clients I would return your call by the end of every business day. And that was ahead of its time. That was like, wow, Frank, most people don't return my call until a day or 2 later. No, even if it was 9 o'clock at night, if I hadn't returned their call, I was on the phone with them. Sorry, I'm calling so late. This is almost the end of my business day, and I promised I'd call back by the end of my business day. That's no longer good enough. People, when they communicate with you, especially electronically, they're usually sitting in front of their computer almost waiting for the response. So that's why you need some automated response systems. And automated response isn't the best in the world, but it's better than nothing. You'll find that clients often work with the first broker who gets back to them, not necessarily because they're the best broker, not because they're the smartest or the most experienced, but it's just because they happen to be the first broker that responded. So having systems in place to respond within minutes. Send 4 handwritten notes each day. Be willing to be the boss and treat it like a real job. So that means you got to kick your own self in the butt once in a while, right? Focus on a few lead generation systems and be consistent. So as I'd mentioned earlier, and you're going to learn more as we work through each week, there are 13 different ways to generate leads. You can't do 13 different programs. Pick 2 or 3 or 4. Like I told my daughter when she was little, you can pick one vegetable that you can always say no to, and I'll respect that. And that would be broccoli. Broccoli was her thing. I would say the same thing. You can pick 1 or 2 of these that you tell me, I'm never going to do cold calling, Frank, and I'll respect that. But what you can't do is say, I'm not going to do any of them, because if you do none of them, you're going to have nothing. You've got to find ways to do 3 or 4 different lead generation programs to generate leads. Because again, what's job 1? Lead generation. Always use clean, crisp, and professional materials. The higher the quality of the package, the higher perceived value of the information and of you. So when you go out to a listing presentation, make sure your stuff isn't dog-eared and old and dirty and coffee stained. Make sure it's full color, it's bound correctly and nicely, and you look professional. Take 1 day a month and work on your business, not in your business. We talked about this earlier. Get to the office early and focus on how much you can get done by noon. There are many people that subscribe to the knowledge or the thinking that whatever I do by noon, I should accomplish everything I want to accomplish by noon, and the rest of the day will take care of itself. Jane Woodward is a great example of that. She spends, I don't talk to Jane unless the building's on fire, from 7 until 11. 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. I know she starts the day out coaching. She starts the day out with her coaching team. They practice their scripts. Then at 8 a.m. she's on the phones, and she is working those phones until 11 a.m. Now, the rest of the day will take care of itself. She'll have appointments. She has obligations she needs to do. She has inspections. She has to meet people for listing presentations or show houses. The rest of the day takes care of itself. She stays focused until 11. I use time blocking to help you stay focused. That's what we're going to cover next. Is some time management ideas, buy a 30-minute timer, and I'll show you what that's for here in a minute. Review the hot sheet every day. Have you guys figured out how to do hot sheets yet?
Not so much.
Okay. So Kelly, so Ryan can help you. In fact, Ryan sends out hot sheets. Ryan, are you sending hot sheets out to everybody every day right now?
He is. I'm getting
Yes.
him.
You getting them?
Yes, I'm sending them out on Mondays and Fridays for you guys.
Okay, perfect. So I would suggest Mondays and Fridays are great, but for a broker who's trying to build their business, it's not good enough. And the reason for that is in the old days, you'd always see the ticker tapes for the stockbrokers, and they were every day they'd be looking at the ticker tape. Okay, what's the market doing, and what's selling, and what's not selling, what's going up and what's going down. That's what the hot sheet is to us. Every morning when you wake up, with your first cup of coffee or first cup of tea, you should be looking at your hot sheet. In order to set up a hot sheet, you go into the Northwest Multiple Listing Service in Matrix, and you can set up a hot sheet at the beginning. As a new broker, I recommend you look at the whole county, every property type. As you become more experienced, you'll dial that down because you don't want to do business in all parts of the county, and you don't want to do business with every property type. But at the beginning, you're trying to get a flavor of what's going on in the market. So every day, look at your hot sheet. The hot sheet tells you new listings, sold listings, homes that came back on the market, homes that expired, homes that were withdrawn, homes that have had price reductions. It shows you all the activity that's gone on in the market over the last 24 hours. Where that will begin to pay dividends for you is when if you decide to work on expires and withdrawn listings as a prospecting method. That will pay dividends for you when you were out showing houses yesterday, and one of the houses that you showed just had a price reduction, because now you can pick up the phone and call your buyer, hey, that house that you saw that you sort of liked, they just dropped at $12,000. So check on the hot sheet every single day. That should be part of your routine before you, with your first cup of coffee, before you scrub your teeth in the morning, check your hot sheet. Begin to know your numbers. And what I mean by that is know your numbers about how many listing presentations does it take for you to get a listing? How many houses does it take you to show before they make an offer? How many calls does it take before somebody says, yes, I want to have an appointment with you? How many contacts does it take in your database before you start getting business? How many days on the market is your average market time? When your house sells, what is the average list price to sell price ratio? The reason why it's important to know your numbers and begin to collect them early is because as you get more experience and you sit down with a seller, you can look them in the eye and say, look, on a whole, the MLS, the average market time is 63 days. My personal is 54. The average list price to sell price ratio is 98%. With my sellers that I represent, I'm at 99.8%. So when you begin to know your numbers, not only can you will it help you differentiate yourself from other people in the MLS, but it's also going to help give you confidence when you're in a downward slump. You'll know, look, man, I haven't had a listing in weeks, although I put on a bunch of listing presentations. Oh, the good news is I get 4 of 10. I just need to do 2 more listing presentations, and I'm sure I'm going to get one. So it helps get you out of a slump when you begin to know your numbers. And then block out time for educational and time off. So that discussion, if you're brand new, should start now. If you're experienced, you should do that at the end of each year for the next year. You block out your whole year in advance, saying how many clock hours do I need this year? And what clock hours do I want? When am I going to take them? And when am I going to take time off? How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Hey, Frank.
Yes, sir.
I'll be glad to send out hot sheets every day in the morning.
How long does it take you to do that?
A few seconds. I have it set up, all set in the criteria.
Yeah, so I would say go for it and then make your criteria all of Kitsap.
Okay.
All of Kitsap, all property types within the last 24 hours. So that's a great service. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what can it mean to be? So let's talk a little bit about time blocking. So that's where we're at right now, is time management. So time. So 3 different ways of time of managing your time, and time does have to be managed. I can tell you that if you don't manage your time is going to manage you. What'll happen is you're going to turn into being a firefighter. You're going to be running to the next thing. So I use 3 different methods myself. One is time blocking, and it's the one that you'll hear us probably talk most about. That is starting out your week. You should know every single week that at 9:30 on Mondays, we have a business meeting in Poulsbo, and at 1 o'clock, we have a business meeting in Kingston. You should know that every Thursday at 9:15, we have training. You should know if you're in Poulsbo, every Wednesday at 9 o'clock, I think it is, the tour happens. In Kingston, it's Tuesday mornings. Block out that time. That is your time. In addition, you may want to block out time to every morning from 9:30 to 11, I want to do lead generation. Block out that time. And when it's blocked out, that means you don't impede on it. There's all this other time to meet with clients. The challenge is that when we start out as a new broker, we operate out of fear of loss. And what that means is that if somebody calls you and says, I'd like to meet with you tomorrow morning to see houses, you're afraid if you say no, that you're going to lose that client. And while I get there's sometimes that you have to drop everything and run, that shouldn't be your everyday mode of operation. Instead, it should be, I'm sorry, I have an appointment then. Can we meet at 1 o'clock and I'll have them all lined out for you? I also respect that in today's market, setting aside the COVID thing, there's such a shortage of inventory that if a buyer wants to see a home, you've got to show them almost right now, because when it comes on the market, there's going to be a lot of activity and there's going to be a lot of offers coming in on it. So having set that part aside, if you've got an inspection that needs to be held, don't hold it at 9:30 on a Monday morning. You can hold it at 1 o'clock that afternoon, because guess what? You miss out on the weekly business meeting. And while I'm not going to say our business meetings are the most exciting things in the world, I do try to make 1 hour a week entertaining, educational, informative as possible for 1 hour. And I try to stick really closely with that 1 hour out of respect for your time. So you shouldn't miss weekly business meetings. You shouldn't miss weekly training. If you do find yourself just knee jerking, okay, I got to do that. Oh, I got to do that. You're out of control of your business and your business is running you. So time blocking is the first one. Time block for you and your family first. If you take care of your family and you, the rest will take care of itself. So your family comes first. Block out the time that you need so if you've got an event, first day of school, or you've got a kid's event that's going on, or your spouse is getting an award somewhere, block out that time. And if a client says, oh, let's meet at that time, you say, no, I'm sorry, I have another appointment at that time. Can we meet tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock instead? So be firm with your time. It's the most valuable asset you have, but yet we give it away freely. So time blocking is the first and probably the most important time management tool that you can use. The second is called the Pomodoro method. And so the Pomodoro method, and gosh, I wish I would have brought mine home with me, but on my desk, there's a little tomato. Pomodoro, I guess, means tomato in Spanish. So because so many timers look like tomatoes, I guess. I didn't know that until I learned about this process many years ago. But so what Pomodoro method is you say, okay, it's a timer. That's why one of the things I told you to do is go get a 30-minute timer, is that statistics and studies show that your brain can really hyper-focus on something for about 22 or 23 minutes. So set a timer for 20 minutes, and your agreement with yourself is I'm not taking calls, I'm not taking interruptions, my door is shut, and I'm focused on this project for 20 minutes solid. So let's say the topic today is listing presentation, and the goal today is to itemize the items that you do for an average seller that differentiates yourself from the rest of the brokers in Kitsap County. So for 20 minutes, that's all you focus on are those items. When the timer goes off, you stop, you stand up, you walk around the office, you walk around the building, you go outside for a walk, then you come back to your desk and you say, okay, do I want to do another 20-minute segment? If the answer is yes, let's say you've got an hour blocked out for this topic, then yes, you'd want to do another segment, click your timer for 20 minutes and dig in and focus on that for 20 minutes. So a timer can really help you focus, because your goal is, I'm going to focus on this in 20-minute chunks and just this. Because unfortunately what we do is, oh yeah, I got to do this today. So you sit down, you take your pen in hand and you start, okay, I'm going to do this topic today. And then the phone rings. So then you pick up the phone. Okay, got it. Oh yeah. And then that breaks. And then it takes you, 90 seconds. Okay, where was I? Okay, great. And then somebody comes in, oh, and then you answer that question. And then before you know it, you're back 90 seconds to get back on task. You've wasted a bunch of time. Pomodoro method is an awesome system to help you accomplish stuff. And then the last way that I want to talk about is called solar flaring. And I use this all the time. And a good example of that is the garage, right? If you look at your garage, you think, oh my gosh, that's just a lot of work. I'm going to do that next Saturday. I'm not going to do it this Saturday. So you put it off and you put it off and you put it off. So what solar flaring is, again, you make an agreement with yourself. And yes, I know you're cheating your brain. You're faking your brain out. Okay, I'm not going to do the whole garage today. I'm just going to do that one cabinet. When that cabinet's done, I'm done. So you go do the cabinet. Well, before you step back and you say, wow, that cabinet looks really clean and organized. I think I'm going to do this shelf over here. And before you know it, you move from place to place to place. And at the end of the day, you got a lot more done than if you would have just walked away from the whole thing. Now, granted, the whole garage might not be clean, but at least one corner is clean. And it started not even as a corner, it started as one little cabinet that went to one shelf. And then it's like, oh, I'm going to organize this holder over here. And oh, I think I'm going to sweep this out over here. And oh, maybe I'm going to shake this rug out over here. And before you know it, you've got a lot more done than if you would have just walked in and gotten overwhelmed. So often, many of the most successful time blocking methods are taking little chunks at a time. Because if we look at some of these things, we feel overwhelmed. You got to break it down into next steps and then work your way through it. So in what ways have you guys used any of these methods? Nothing?
I block time.
You time block?
Works. That really helps. And when I don't follow it, then I get flustered, I guess.
That's when you get into trouble. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Have any of you used any of these others?
I do think of those times often, Frank. I remember learning about the Pomodoro method from you before. And a lot of times at the end of my day, it would be really easy to say, oh, I'm done, I'm going to go. But I look at the clock and I go, you know what? I've got about 20 minutes left. Let me just dig in and do that one thing. And I feel really good that when I leave the office that I just dug in and did that one other thing. So kind of tops off my day with a feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah. Having that mentality of just doing one more thing before you quit is just, I learned that. I've read all kinds of self-help books, but before I ever got into real estate, I was with an advertising company, and I read some books somewhere. And so at the end of each day, as I just got done leaving my last appointment, I would say to myself, wow, I'm tired. I've had a long day. I think it's time to go home. And then I'd think, okay, what if I make one more call? So I'd always force myself to make one more call. And that one more call done consistently, time over time over time, led to greater success in the big picture. And after all, that's all success is. These successful people don't wake up one day and take one little white pill or do one thing that makes them successful. Although as a society, as a people, we're always looking for that one thing, right? There is no one thing for anything. It's little things done consistently over a long period of time that builds up to this great success or this great wealth or whatever it is. And so that's where you're tricking your mind into, okay, I'll make one more call. Or to Cindy's point, I'll just put in one more 20-minute push. You end the day on a high note, you often come up with more business than you would have had. And even if you can't finish the business in that time, guess what? You can start tomorrow right off with that, and you come in with a sense of momentum already. So, okay, perfect, good. Floor time is our next topic. How are we doing on time? 10:24, so we've been doing this for an hour. Okay, got it. So typically these 8 phases meetings will last anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. I'll cut them off at 90 minutes. They can tend to get even longer when you start getting into the buyer presentation, seller presentation sections, but I'll certainly cut it off before we hit 90 minutes. Floor time is something that hopefully we're going to get back to at some point. Floor time is important, but it can't be your only way of doing business. Before you stand floor time for the first time, I want to spend some time with you. I want you to spend some time with your mentor, because I want you to have, remember in the quick start guide, there were those, the questions. You should have a list of those in front of you. You should go on tour. You should know any advertisements that are running. You should look, our office prints out a hot sheet every day. We will again. Every day when you go in, there's a hot sheet that shows or an X list it's called. And I back that up. We print the X list every week. So that's typically in a stack up at the front of the room when we do our Monday business meetings. There's the X list and it shows all the new listings that we've got. Even though you can find them online, I get that. There's still brokers that like to have it on paper. You need to know that stuff. That's why it's so important to look at the hot sheet every day, is when you're sitting floor, what are people calling you on? They're calling you on the newest listing, or they're calling you on something they saw in the newspaper or something they saw online. So that means you need to be current with that kind of stuff. So let's see. So floor time, yep. And I've got a whole floor time book, I believe. Let's see, briefcase, cash flow. Okay, so in case, I'm gonna start cruising through some of these a little bit. Personal practices, we just did that one. What does it mean to be a good communicator? So this is in your packet. Returning calls as quickly as the situation dictates, but certainly by the end of each business day. Yeah, it should be a minimum. We talked about that earlier. So different people communicate in different ways. And that's one of the magics of our business, is trying to find out how your clients communicate. So I'd ask you to look at, what page is that? It's called, What Does It Mean to Be a Good Communicator? So open up that page on your screen. I won't share my screen because it might be too blurry. But during an initial contact, return a call within minutes, not hours. So that might mean you have an autoresponder. So maybe you have an autoresponder on email, that somebody sends you an email, an autoresponder goes out, I'm sorry, I'm in a meeting right now, but I'll call you at 3 o'clock. What some brokers do is they have a routine of returning calls at 10, 1, and 3:30, let's say. And that could be part of your voicemail. If every morning when you wake up, you change your voicemail on your phone. Hi, thanks for calling. This is Frank. I'm sorry I'm not available to take your call. I do return your calls. I do return calls every day at 10 o'clock, at 11:30, and at 3:30. So please leave a message and I'll get back to you then. If it is urgent, please feel free to page me or to text me and I'll get right back to you. Have a great day. I look forward to talking with you soon. Great. You change that, or you put that on your voicemail. And so now people, you built their expectation of when you're going to be communicating with them. The fun part is, the more often you find yourself working with people that already know you, they've already got that trust built up that you'll get back to them. But if somebody's communicating with you for the very first time and you guys are strangers, it's even more important that you jump on that call, get to them, because now you're showing them that you're reliable, that you follow through on your promises, you're prepared, you're active, you're involved. You've really got to drive those messages home when you're dealing with strangers. Once they get to know you, they know, oh yeah, they always call me back in a reasonable period of time. Acknowledge receipt of communications, understanding that email is the lowest form of communication, face-to-face is the highest. I think we rely far too much on email and not enough on face-to-face or phone-to-phone. If something changes, let others know. Keep people involved, keep them updated. Human nature is, if you create a vacuum for them, if something's going on but they're not sure, whatever they make up in their brain, it's going to be negative, I promise. It's going to be worst case scenario. Even if you're calling somebody and saying, hey, as I told you, the inspector wasn't able to come out today, I haven't heard anything back, I promise I'm following up and I'll let you know. Call somebody and tell them that. That way they know you're working on it. Otherwise, they're making it up in their brain. Oh, I bet that inspector's not going to come out. They're not going to come out for days. Oh, he's too busy. They're going to make it up in their brain. Keep people involved. So if things change, let people know. If someone is waiting on something, it's okay to call and let them know that you haven't received anything yet. When you can't do something you promised, let the other person know as soon as possible. That always drives me crazy when brokers would call to make appointments to show a house and then they just don't show up. To me, that's breaking promises. I told you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, who I don't represent because I represent my buyer, but I called and told you I was going to be out there between 3 and 3:30 to show your home. I'm putting my integrity out there. If I just don't show up, that's breaking my integrity. Instead, call, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to see your home today, or we weren't able to see your home today. My buyers decided to go in a different direction. Thank you for making your home available. So communicate with people. Manage expectations through good communications. Look down the road to anticipate challenges. For long-term relationships, intermix the different types of communications. So don't just do all voicemail or text or email. Mix up the different modalities. I always used to have a thing because I'd send out written updates. Of course, that was before before email, of course, in the Stone Age. So I always had a policy that if I had 3 or 4 things to mail somebody, I would actually break them down into 3 different envelopes and send them out a day apart. Because I wanted to let people know I'm always communicating with them. So change up the different modalities. Let the form of communication match the message. Don't try to negotiate a contract via email. Negotiations is the highest thing that you can be doing. That should be done face-to-face or at least phone-to-phone. I remember one time, again, when I was practicing broker, I called somebody. So I presented an offer. On the way home, I called on my cell phone. And my cell phone was one of the big bricks because I remember holding it up to my face. And I said, hey, good news. They want to go forward. However, they wanted to change this one point. I'm on my way over. Well, between the time that I was in my car and the time that I got there, by the time I got to my seller's house, they were mad. I can't believe they're going to do this. I shouldn't have called them. I should have just called them from the phone and said, I have a counteroffer. I'm headed over. I think you'll find it to be acceptable. I'll be there in 5 minutes. That would have been a better way to handle it. In fact, instead, I went through what the changes were, but I wasn't there to explain what the changes meant. By the time I got to the house, they were all ramped up. Turned out fine. I settled everything down. They accepted the offers. They were sellers. They accepted the buyer's counteroffer. It all worked out, but it taught me a valuable lesson in that don't give pieces of information on the phone. Give them encouraging, but I'm on my way, and then present the change in person. That way you can talk them off the ledge when they spin up. Because again, we're using words that they don't understand. In that case, I was telling words that I knew were no big deal, but they heard it differently. So keep in mind who your audience is and who they might share it with. So often we'll work with clients and then they share it with their kids or their parents or their friends who come with a lot of emotional ties, and now all of a sudden they become more of an expert than you. Oh, my dad told me this, so what you're telling me can't be right. So try to always keep in mind who they're going to share it with, and how that might. Change your voicemail greetings regularly. To build callers' expectations. Use autoresponders like your voicemail greeting to set expectations. So in any case, here's some additional tips on good communication, because at the end of the day, lead generation and good communications are probably the basic foundations for building this business. So the next item that I'm going to open up is briefcase items. And I know that's kind of funny in today's day and age because who the heck carries a briefcase? But it's still valid. These are items that you should have. Roadrunner map. Yeah, I need to update this. We used to have Roadrunner maps here in Kitsap County. We don't have those anymore. But the point is, you need to have a little kit with you in your car. As we talked about earlier, this is not a business where you do all your business, where you do your business all behind your desk every day. You're everywhere. You're in their house. You're in somebody else's house. You're in your car. You're at your home office. You're at the office. You're all over the place. So you should have stuff that you carry with you on a regular basis. The car, your car is a public conveyance. It should always be clean, neat, and squared away. I always broke it down into my space, their space, and the trunk. So my space, these are things I need to have with me. I was a big clipboard guy. I'm still a clipboard guy. I would typically have all my notes for my showings. I'd have my MLS key. I'd have my business cards. In today's day and age, you're going to have handy wipes, and you're going to have face masks, right? Flashlight are critical, and your cell phone. In their space, if they're riding in your car with you, and again, in today's day and age, you will not be doing that. You'll be meeting them at the property. But if they're in your space, their place should have a clipboard. Remember last week we talked about Cloud CMA and how it can print out a report for the client, for the buyer, with all the houses they're going to see. That goes on the clipboard. There should be an umbrella, water, energy bars, and flashlights. Flashlights for each individual person is important for safety and for them to see a home. I learned that lesson when I showed an FHA home that was being foreclosed on, and they'd shut off the power. It was in the winter. It was like at 4:30, and the house was dark. I had one flashlight that I had in my car for emergency purposes, and you get in the house and try showing a house with me, so I don't want to trip or fall anything, and they all want to see different things. So my flashlight was like this all over the place. That's when I came away and said, no, everybody has to have their own flashlight. That way they can look at what they want to look at, and they'll be safer having their own flashlight. And of course, at the end of a day, you know, showing 4, 6, 8 houses in a day, you're tired. Make sure you've got water and energy bar for them. And then of course, my trunk always had a kit: paper towels, Windex, lock boxes, sign markers, staple gun, hammer if I needed to put in stakes and arrow signs, that kind of stuff. I also, when I first got into business, I would do anything, anywhere, anytime with real estate. I changed that, but I also carried a jumpsuit in the car and rubber boots, because I always tried to dress nice. I tried to differentiate myself. I was a young buck, so I was trying to look older and more sophisticated or more trustworthy. So I always wore a white shirt and tie. That didn't work good when I'm out tromping 2 acres to show a buyer. So I always carried rubber boots and a zip-up poopy suit. So there's that. Questions on any of that stuff? Still holds true today. You should have an open house kit in your car. Windex, paper towels, stuff that makes the house smell good, maybe a dustpan and a broom, small broom, just stuff to be able to pick up, clean up, make the house look good. And especially today, you're going to want handy wipes or, you know, sanitary wipes. You're going to want Windex for sure and paper towels. You're going to want face masks. You're going to want gloves for showing houses. So where floor time did that. Okay, so let me go through the last couple of items in the last few minutes that we've got. Cash flow. So here's a little chart that I sent you that shows cash flow. So as you first start getting your transactions, does everybody have this up on their screen?
No.
So I'll put it up.
Got it.
Okay, good. So I'll share screen again real quick, just so you can at least see what we're talking about. So over here on, so this is just an Excel spreadsheet, nothing fancy about it. But here on the left-hand side is contract, then seller or buyer, what the close date is, and then you've got January through December. And what I would do is out here, let's say in May, I'd put how much commission I was earning. And so by keeping track of every transaction, I began to get a handle on my cash flow. I could say, well, gosh, I've got closings in April, May, July, and August, but I got nothing in June. I better get busy and fill up June. Also, at the end of a year, it's great to be able to look. You've got a whole list of all your clients. And as you can see across the bottom, it begins to total things. So this is a sheet that's set up. It should automatically total as you put numbers in and help you keep track of not only what transactions you did, but also what your cash flow is and how much money you earned. A good tool is, as you know, with John L. Scott, every time you get a commission, you get the check. Even if it's a direct deposit, you still get a copy of what looks like a check, and you also get a transaction report. You should 3-hole punch that and put that in a notebook. I know it's old-fashioned. I know people like to keep stuff on the internet, but if you just 3-hole punch it, throw it in a notebook, I can promise you that when it comes tax time, you've got all the information you need right there when you combine that with all your expenses and what have you. So let's go to annual tax prep. So this is just a quick cheat sheet for you for annual tax prep. One of the things you'll want to do is get a CPA at some point. If you're brand new, you might not need one today or tomorrow, but certainly by the end of the year, you're going to need one. And one of the things they're going to help you do is set up different categories to keep track of all your expenses. As an independent contractor, individual business owner, you get to write off a lot of stuff that somebody like myself that's an employee of John L. Scott, I don't get to write off. You can get pretty creative with it, with this one understanding. The challenge of every small business across the country, every independent contractor across the country, is that you might make a lot of money, but you work really hard to work down that income from tax purposes by showing every expense you have so that your income looks like it's down here, because that's what you pay taxes on. The drawback to that is that when it comes time to buy a house, that's what the lender is going to see, and you might not qualify for a loan. So just keep that all in mind. My motto was always write off as much as I could. If you buy a new cell phone, write it off. If you buy a new camera, you write it off. Any dues, memberships, if you buy any electronics. And in fact, a lot of those you don't even have to depreciate now. I forget what the numbers are, but if it's below a certain amount, you can take it as a single write-off and not have to depreciate it over 3 or 5 years. So any office supplies, your mileage. So you need to have a system in place to keep track of mileage. Let me see, where's my phone? I use a program, there's several out there. but I use a program called Everlance. Everlance costs me a few bucks every year, but it just sits in my car. And then at the end of every day, I can go through and swipe left or swipe right to say, was this business mileage? When you talk with your CPA, there's two ways to write off your car. You can take off a percentage of use. So if, let's say, you can document that you use your car 80% of the time, you can take all your expenses, all your payments, all your insurance, all your maintenance, and write off 80% of that. What most of us do, especially if it's not a higher end car, my understanding is that the percentage of use is best for higher end cars. But if for those of us that drive, like my truck, I do cost per mile. And do you guys know what the IRS is paying right now for gas? I understand it actually went down this year for the first time. Anybody? No? So I'm thinking it might be 52 or 53 cents a mile. So you need.
I thought it was 58.
58. Okay. So it's I think it's higher than 50 and it's less than 60 cents a mile. That adds up to some serious money. So make sure you have a system in place to keep it. The IRS wants you to have a log. That could be a paper log, or it could be an Everlance or electronic type log. Little hint, you cannot write off your drive from your home to the office. You can't write that off, which means as an independent contractor, real estate broker, you should never drive from your home right to the office. You should always drive by a listing first to make sure the sign didn't get blown down in last night's storm or the flyer box is full. If you always drive by a listing or drive by a neighborhood that you want to preview or go preview a house first, then you can always write off your mileage. So keep all receipts, keep envelopes at collection sites. So one of the systems that I have for tax collection is I keep I bought a brown paper type envelope. I keep one at my office desk at the office, one at my home desk here at home, and I keep one in my car. Those are logical places for me to get receipts. If I take somebody to lunch, I write the date, who I took to lunch and what we talked about. I put it in the envelope. And then part of my tax prep system is to collect all my envelopes and all my receipts are there. So in any case, there's that. Let's see, what's next? There's always such business coaching worksheet. So this next item, I'm not going to open it up, but when you get into business coaching with me, that's the worksheet that we use. Time blocking, there's some information on time blocking there for you. 1-15 is preparation for floor time. Item 119 is career development activities. And this last item that I'm going to wrap up today's session with is called, is it going to come up? Hello, there it is. Action sheet from week 1. So this is your homework for next time. So what I want you to do is begin collecting your database. And even though many of you that are attending today are expired, not yet, experienced brokers, start collecting your database. Even go through and shake up your head. Who's my insurance person? Who's my dentist? Who's my CPA? Those people should all be in there. Call and talk with at least 20 people in your database. Send at least 5 handwritten notes over there. Enter 15 people into your database, meet with people for coffee, lunch, or breakfast. Obviously, that's not in person. That's going to be via Zoom. Read or reread the Law of Real Estate Agency brochure. That's the basic law by which we practice real estate. We are not a fiduciary state. We are a legislative state when it comes to our duties. This outlines our duties. Start looking at the hot sheet every day. Set 2 people up in the property tracker. Don't visit any open houses right now. Now, get a logbook if you don't have one. It could be just a cheap dollar college-ruled hardback book that you can buy at Walmart for $1 or so. Go on weekly open house tour when those come back. Hopefully, you should all be signed up and have paid your realtor dues. Get set up with the MLS. You all are. So this is your worksheet for the next week. So that was a lot to cover. And I'm sorry it's so much in lecture format because that's the only way we can really get through it. Was today helpful?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Okay. So each week we're going to continue through. We've got 12 more weeks to go. And it'll include everything from listing presentations, buyer presentations, how to generate leads. So there's a lot more fun stuff to come. And we are coming right up on 10:45. So that's 90 minutes worth of stuff. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
My
Frank.
pleasure. You bet.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
guys,
you.
have a great week. If you need more clarification on anything, or you're having trouble with any of the paperwork I sent you, excuse me, let me know and I'll send it to you in individual pages. Thanks for being here, guys. This shows me that you want to be students of the business, and that's what will keep you in the business as a pro for a long time. Have a great week.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.